All right, we're back. Tasty Crypto Show. I'm Ryan Grace, and with me today, our resident market wizard, Zadie McGarrigle, also known as Katie McGarrigle.
Yeah.
Katie, Zadie, how you doing?
I'm good, but the news I wanted to share with you.
You got news to share?
Well, yeah, you were jumping the gun a little bit while we were off air, but yes, shout out to everybody in the chat that knows that I'm a video game dabbler, for those that are maybe watching for the first time. I picked up another video game this weekend.
Hell yeah.
I'm back in the Jedi world. So
Okay.
now I'm a Jedi again. I'm using the Force to control the markets. Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
I love it.
It's been good.
Yeah. Are you a PlayStation 5, Xbox? I don't know what it is.
PlayStation 5.
Xbox
we're a
720,
we're a
something like that.
PS5 household.
Okay.
Family, if you will. On a very, very large TV.
Oh, of course.
And yeah, you know, there's always discussions of like the God rays and the frames per second and all the things that, even though I've worked in the production world for a long time, I understand frames per second. But like all of the other things that have to do with the way that like games render and process and how quickly they can like move on all that, like I get that kind of conversation all the time. And I'm like, yeah, it looks great. Just let me like use the Force now and play with my lightsaber.
I like that though. You've got the visuals cranked up, they're crisp. You got the subwoofer cranked up, the walls are shaking.
Ugh, I do not like that, but yes, we do. Yeah, there is like one small little like subwoofer on the ground that used to be right next to our couch. So when we would play or watch Game of Thrones, when they've got that HBO like boom at the beginning, and it would like rattle my seat, I hated that.
Okay.
But we've moved it. I put a yoga mat under it. Life is improving.
Dampen it a little bit.
Yeah, dampen it a little bit.
Well,
yeah.
I appreciate that story.
It's the big news.
That's a good update.
Yeah, but
show.
there's even more like important updates, which is why we're here today. Bitcoin had its best day ever, its highest level ever in the month of May. We are now in June, but let's talk about May.
Yeah, we hit a new all-time high last month. I haven't been on the show in a while. I've been traveling a little bit. I've been at the Consensus Conference in Toronto, and then I was just at StableCon, which is Stablecoin Conference in New York last week. So I haven't been here much. I've got a handful of things to update you on. We're going to talk about the markets. We're going to try to pump the coins a little bit as we do. There you are.
Oh my gosh, we need some new pictures. It's so corny. You look great. Look at those guns.
I look younger.
You look like you're riding a roller coaster. Whee!
You look great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, talk to me a little bit about the conferences and stuff before we really dive into like price levels and everything.
Yeah, so
What are the high notes?
I would say, you know, the big takeaway from both of these conferences recently is that while in some capacity the institutions have been here, the tidal wave of institutional flow, institutional participation is about to hit the shore.
Okay.
There's a lot of pent-up demand, but I think that, you know, it likely follows some regulatory progress here in the U.S., some legislation. We currently have the ongoing stablecoin legislation. I haven't seen any details on that, but everyone that I've talked to was very hopeful that we would get something passed by the end of the summer. That would then open the door to a larger crypto market structure bill, which then ultimately would invite the big ass flows from these institutions. So everybody's really bullish, as you might expect at these crypto conferences. But I think it still depends on kind of how things shake out here with the regulatory landscape, with the kind of the legislative side of things.
Okay.
But it is fun to go to these and see a lot of people that are, you know, very pro crypto.
Okay. Did you know, any cool parties? Did you meet Drake in Toronto?
Didn't meet Drake.
Any celebrity sightings?
Yeah. So Dave Portnoy was there. I mean, these are, I don't know.
Internet celebrity.
Yeah. Eric Trump.
Okay.
The Secret Service. Kevin O'Leary. Mr. Wonderful. Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Few other kind of big names within the crypto space. But yeah, it was really interesting to just hear kind of everyone's perspective and really the theme being that this is an accumulation game. There are sovereign wealth funds and different nations, possibly central banks that will be looking to accumulate, but largely, wherever you go around the world, that's been the theme, at least what we've heard from some of these conferences.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm
Yeah.
still holding all of my crypto. I haven't really been getting out of anything. So
Okay. Well, we've had a little bit of weakness in alts outside of Bitcoin, and we just saw momentum kind of pause here. We went from bullish on the daily when we look at our exponential moving averages to neutral for Bitcoin, but ETH has traded a little bit better. Let's jump into our slides and take a look, Katie. Also,
pump it.
chat's open if you want to pump it in the chat. We always start with a question of the day for the show. I guess let's go with like PlayStation or Xbox. Where are you at if you're assuming you're a gamer?
Yeah, and if so, what
PC maybe.
What are you playing?
Yeah, I like that.
Share what you're playing.
Because you're always looking for a new game.
Always. Yeah. Well, not always. I got kind of tricked into starting up my gamer adventures again, but I'm not mad about it.
It happens.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's take a look at the performance dashboard here. I've got Bitcoin just under 105 at the moment. We put this together 104 and a half. You can see some red on the screen for the last week here, but the trend still largely intact for BTC. ETH traded a little bit better, like I mentioned, but starting to see some weakness here. A lot of chop and noise at times when we look at these kind of price momentum signals in the short term, but obviously the daily precedes the weekly and so on, and you are starting to see things slow down a little bit. A couple of weeks ago, obviously traded a lot better, new all-time high throughout the month of May, towards the end there, and now, I like to describe it as taking a little bit of a breather.
Sure.
Outside of Bitcoin. Solana trading a bit weaker as well, but ETH has been better after being left for dead.
Yeah, I've got all three of the top three here in my portfolio, in my personal portfolio, I should say. I know for a while there we were also talking about kind of the run that Ripple has been having, at least in terms of like more participation as well. Have not started to dabble in that just yet. But anything like surprising to you in any of that movement, or like, as you're saying, just based on kind of the recent run up and upside we've seen, do you feel like it's apropos that we've been taking a little bit of a beat?
No, I'm not really surprised to see the price action that we're observing. I mean, for some time now, and we'll go and look at Bitcoin market cap dominance in just a second, but it's really been this theme of Bitcoin over everything. Going back to the conferences, a lot of the discussion really has been around Bitcoin ETFs, the accumulation game and flows, into those products. And when you look at, if we jump over to this slide here, Bitcoin market cap dominance at 64%, close to 65%. If we use those same signals, and you look at momentum there, it's still very bullish. There's no real signs of this rolling over and that it's altcoin season. You would expect to see Bitcoin market cap dominance come down quite a bit there. I will point out that ETH BTC is trading a little bit better. It's been so bearish for so long. It's trading better now. On the other side of that, you look at Solana, a lot weaker versus Bitcoin, a lot weaker versus ETH. But it still has been Bitcoin over everything. So not surprised to see that, yes, you're going to get these big bounces at times. These other smaller market cap tokens are certainly more volatile. So you do get those kind of big rips that happen when everything trades in one direction. But, you're seeing more resilient moves, at least recently, from Bitcoin, from ETH versus, Doge had a nice pop and has come back down.
That's what I was going to ask you. So when you're saying like altcoin season, like, is it everything that is under like the top 5 in terms of market cap to you? Like, is there a common definition, or is it just more?
It's really everything outside of Bitcoin.
Okay.
Historically, throughout cycles, what we tend to see, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen this time, though everybody believes that it will, right? They want it to. But what we typically see is that Bitcoin makes this run, hits new all-time highs, it outperforms, and then at a certain point in the cycle, there's a rotation. You have investors, traders that take profits in that Bitcoin position. A lot of people will still hold, a majority of their investment in Bitcoin, but people look for opportunities elsewhere. If Bitcoin has had this big run, and if we go and we look at, on a relative basis, Bitcoin's up 12% year to date. here you can see a few of the larger market cap tokens that we're going to track. So this is a year-to-date performance here. Bitcoin's up 10%. Everything else is down year-to-date when we look at that way. And I've got Bitcoin up 12% year-to-date here. So apologies, my numbers are coming from a couple different sources at different points in time. But you just look at year-to-date versus BTC, everything has underperformed.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it hasn't gone up. And in some cases, these tokens have done very well. But versus Bitcoin, they've underperformed. And so the view is at some point in the cycle, that flips. That's altcoin season.
Right.
And that's when crazy shit happens. Straight up valuations that fundamentally, if that's a thing, don't really make any sense.
15-year-olds are making thousands and thousands of dollars.
It's easy, right? There's the FOMO. It's alive and well. It pulls everybody into this. You get this massive bubble. It's reflexive in nature.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you get a big correction afterwards. And I'm just describing historically what's happened. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen this time. But again, that's what everybody's playing for. And when you look at Bitcoin market cap dominance, that coming down would be an indication of flows into these other assets, because Bitcoin's market cap versus the entire crypto market cap is now a smaller percentage. It's gone from 64 to 60 to 55 to 50.
Yeah.
That might be enough for true blast off mode in some of these other tokens.
And is there a historical, extreme, if you will, of Bitcoin dominance versus these other ones, like percentage-wise?
So that's kind of what we're seeing here today. If we jump over to our browser for just a second, let me pull up Bitcoin.
Yeah, an extreme on the upside for right now, right?
Yeah, so let's look at this over the last 5 years. You'll see what I'm talking about. So if we can just pull up the browser window for a second here. And you'll see that, we're really right now at a multi-year high. So here's Bitcoin market cap dominance on TradingView. And I guess we can look at all time, right? At one point, the only crypto to trade was Bitcoin. ETH pops up, you get XRP, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, etc. But you certainly didn't have all of the tokens that you can trade today until, still today, but probably starting 2017 ICO bubble, 2018 kind of crash thereafter. But here is Bitcoin market cap dominance in 17. We get this just massive rip, and all these other things pushes it down to 40%. So still a substantial part of the market. Comes back up to about 70 and is trading at close to 65, 64, 65 right now.
So like you're saying, pretty relative extreme based on like how much has kind of happened in the space over the last 7-8 years.
Yeah, I would find it odd. It's not impossible. I would just find it odd. Maybe it's a lower probability that you get Bitcoin market cap dominance back up north of 75%, 80%. So at these levels, arguably you're nearing the top. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to roll over and all of a sudden these others are going to start to perform. You could stay here for quite some time, and we've been trending higher and higher for the last, really almost the last 2 years, year and a half or so. But we are towards the top end of that range.
Okay. All right.
So maybe alts have a run, right? And I guess the other way to look at it, it's like, okay, Bitcoin has an implied volatility right now of 43%. It's a $100,000 asset.
Yeah.
So let's just make it really simple. Let's say it's 50% vol, $100,000 asset, 1 year, one standard deviation range gives you a trading range then of 150 to 50. Okay. So a decent return if you own Bitcoin. But if we have altcoin season and some of these other things really run at it, maybe ETH can go to 5. It can double. Maybe Solana goes to 10. Roughly a 10x possibly. Not saying that's going to happen, but that's again what people kind of trade for or look for in these markets at that point in time when maybe all of the gains really have been squeezed out of Bitcoin.
Okay. That's what we call vaporize or multiply.
Yes, I like that. It's gonna be a new technical term here on the show.
Oh, we don't need any more terms at Tasty. We have so many terms, so much jargon, so many strategy names that mean nothing to anybody outside of these walls.
That's a good one, though. What'd you say? Vaporizer multiplier?
Vaporize or multiply.
Yeah, we're hoping at some point that kicks off, and that's full-blown blast-off mode.
Yeah, let's do it.
So that's a quick look at where we are in terms of performance here recently. If we go back to our slides for a second, just cycling through this, you can see the theme across all of the tokens that we track here at Tasty Trade that are available to trade at the brokerage. Really reflect what I'm talking about. Bitcoin over everything, with the exception of Aave.
Yeah, I was going to say, look at
which
this.
I'm back on the follow page, Katie, and I put on an Aave trade today because we did just get this shift from neutral price momentum, moving average crossover on the weekly. Very quickly went from bearish to neutral to bullish within 2 weeks. In my, I guess, experience, when you see something that happens like that in sequence very quickly, typically precedes a larger bullish move. So bought one Aave. Right around 250. You could follow that on the follow page now. So we're going to start to post these trades there on the follow page on Tasty Trade.
Hell yeah.
And it's going to be based on what we see with the signals. So we'll get out of stuff too. And it's quite possible we get chopped up at times. Some things will work, some things won't work. But when they do work, they tend to run. A lot of times these do trend. So hopefully it works out in our favor. But that's the one bright spot here. That's been a bright spot. Sui has been a bright spot, though, has traded a lot weaker recently. What makes this tough is that we can talk about how bearish this is for a couple of weeks, and then boom, it's like up 50% in a couple of days, I guess that's what makes it fun. But just cycling through here, here's a handful of smaller market cap tokens as well. And yeah, it's just been pretty weak performance outside of Bitcoin.
All right. I'm super excited to hear that you're back on the follow page because these are coins that I have not dabbled in yet. I've been doing what we've kind of been talking about since you and I started doing the show together, which is just a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, a handful of names that we've talked about during the Battle of the Bags stint. So I'm excited to kind of dig into these other ones. And I like that, when you are posting them, I'm assuming, I'm not, so maybe I'm wrong here, but I like that, you kind of went out and bought one Aave, but you can also do the thing where you are buying a dollar amount as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it just kind of helps with the flexibility because $255, great, super in line with my risk tolerance for trading. I was working with one of our writers today, and I was showing him, here's how you short a micro pound future, which is also around $200, $300 in buying power. So this is totally in line, especially for new to me products. Something like this would be digestible enough for me to kind of withstand, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're not going to come in here and buy a whole Bitcoin for $104,000.
Wouldn't it be nice?
But we'll look at this as trade ideas, I suppose, for educational purposes where they're time stamped. So based on whatever we're seeing in the market, one reason or another, we're going to go long or we're going to sell out of that position. You can't short this. We might short futures at some point to take, a negative view on price. So that's sometimes challenging in crypto. There will be other trades as well. Maybe we'll do something in Coinbase, MicroStrategy, trade some iBit options at times to express a different view. But keep an eye on the follow page. You're going to start to post more crypto-related trades there. But that said, first trade today in Aave, going long based on the signals. Let's take a look at some additional volatility signals here, Katie. These are the expected moves for the next week based on the current spot price and implied volatility. I will again, not so much caution, but call out Bitcoin vol is low. I've been buying iBit call options with a decent amount of time, going out into the November expiration, buying the 60, 65, 70 strike call. Anything above that on the tail, it's cheapened up quite a bit here with vol low. So the view is obviously that volatility is going to expand more so than you're going to get a doubling in the price. What we really want to see is just the price start to run a little bit. You get that delta move, but more so, volatility in Bitcoin goes from say 40 back to 60. That would be ideal. It's currently at a very low IV rank on the 1 year basis, almost zero. And you can see the same thing for the 6 and 3 month periods. Yeah. ETH a little bit higher, but also still pretty low relative to where we could trade or where we have traded before.
So you said you're buying the 70s and the 65s in November?
Yeah, I've been trading around in there. I've traded the tail a little bit in the past, buying 85, 90 calls in there. Sure. They'll go up $1, go up $2 from where you've bought them if you do get the pop in volatility. take the profits at that point in time. It's not a trade where I'm trying to buy the right tail or the upside here for IBIT, and I'm thinking that, yes, the price is going to go from 50 to 100.
Right.
Maybe, but that would imply a $200,000 Bitcoin price.
Yeah.
So anything is possible, but that's not the trade. This is a volatility view and a way to express that, via these options.
All right. Well, I will definitely take a look at that. Maybe try to put something on the follow feed in the next day or two.
Yeah, the other trade that I've been putting on in there, and I haven't posted any of these yet, but we'll start to do this as well, is just to sell very short-term put options.
Sure.
So if I do get a sign on the position, I'll sell a call option against that every once in a while, depending on how this is trading. You do get some good chop in there. You can kind of leg into a strangle if you want to. And I'm trading stuff that's got 2 days, 3 days until it expires. But selling put options at strikes that have a little bit higher volatility than kind of where we're trading on a 30-day basis. But that's been a trade that has worked pretty well because you can go out and it's not a ton, but you might get 25, 30 cents.
Yeah.
Couple of days, almost $10 worth of theta each day.
Yeah, and I think if you are predominantly an options trader and you're looking to still like dabble in the space to kind of diversify your assets, if you will, naked puts are probably like a very simple way to do that. So
absolutely
easy management. You can roll out in time for a credit, like always, like as long as you're not trying to manipulate the strikes so much. And like to your point, you can also use it as like a de facto like limit order if you want to take the stock and then sell the calls against it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we know that this stuff is going to move. The trend has been bullish. I think you still have that kind of secular bull trend in there. I think there's some time ahead of us for this market to play out. But if you want to get in at a lower price, you either have to wait or you can generate a little bit of yield, sell some premium in there and take in that credit and get paid to wait in a sense. Now, you don't want that monster move back down to 75, but that's the risk that you run. And there's ways to manage that if it does occur. But that's not necessarily my view at this stage. Expected moves for Bitcoin for the 1 week are about $6,000. That's come in a little bit here as the prices come back down off of 110. ETH has really been stuck at about 250. Same with Solana. We've been looking for like a $15 move in there over the last couple of weeks, and realized vol has come in a bit as well, which is typically what you see because the volatilities in here often explode on the upside. And Solana's been a lot weaker recently. SWI's been weaker. XRP's been weaker.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like there was like a little bit of a hot streak of SWI talk in the last couple of weeks, and it seems to have fizzled out a little bit.
Yeah, it has fizzled a little bit here. I'm still bullish long term. I mean, this is something that I've owned since it was sub 50 cents. I just lucked out and got in early there. But, it's off of the highs. Highs about $5 in there. And recently, I mean, if you go back to April, this traded almost down to $1.50. $1.50 up to $4. Not surprised to see some profit taking. I do think it goes higher over time, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. That's a really good question. Do you have anything else to add before I ask you my question?
No, hit me.
So the thing that's interesting, I think, about cryptos, and I was having this conversation with somebody recently, is that, like, obviously there's such a large amount of disparity, I guess you could call it, between the prices of all of these coins. So when you talk about, like, oh, I bought SWI at 50 cents, like, how do you not, like, do people be like, well, isn't that just basically the same thing as like buying a penny stock? Like, do you feel like they're similar? Yeah,
absolutely. These are, micro market cap at times. You can get all the way on that end of the spectrum where you have a market cap of a couple $1 million, and it probably is going to be a couple $1 million or zero.
Right.
But there are those asymmetric opportunities where that couple $1 million market cap that you happen to get into at that time goes to a couple $100 million.
Right.
Now, those are few and far between, but it certainly happens. There's ways that you can just absolutely knock it out of the park here. So is that similar to biotech or penny stocks, really small micro market cap companies? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some similarities there. There's probably more opportunities in crypto to really kind of put on your
and like the
gambler
latest
hat.
drug breakthrough.
Exactly, yeah. So if you can kind of catch that narrative, and sometimes they don't last very long at all, but that's where you can find some alpha, and you ride the bubble really. I don't think for sometimes you're not in the trade to be in it forever, but they can be reflexive in nature, and that's kind of how you make money, is in these bubbles at times.
Right. And I think the point is that like you're not just doing that, right? Like, yeah, you are putting some type of capital on the sidelines, almost like dormant, if you will, until those moments happen. But you're also a very active trader in other regards, to your point of how much other positions you have on with Bitcoin, with providing liquidity pools, with staking. Like, you are doing more than just like spraying out and like loading up on
absolutely
cheap like coins.
Those trades maybe account for 1 to 2-3% of my portfolio.
Exactly.
Majority of my portfolio is invested in Bitcoin, in ETH, in Solana, have some SWI, have some Tau, BitTensor now.
Yeah.
We've talked about that a little bit. But taking a flyer on something that's sub $10 million market cap, I'm not putting a lot of money into
Totally.
it, right?
It's the same thing as buying...
They're lottery tickets at times.
Yeah, it's buying a raffle ticket at the Cubs game.
Yes.
Love it.
So it keeps you, it's a engagement tool, right?
Yeah, I love it. I just figured I'd ask because like it was a question that got up, like, well, isn't that the same thing as a penny stock? But I do think you also make an argument to say, well, maybe there's more stuff going on in the crypto space than in some of those other penny stock spaces.
Totally.
Cool.
Well, Katie, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you, as always, for joining me here on the Tasty Crypto Show. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. As always, it's been a nice little reunion.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I've been off for a couple weeks. I feel like we've been out, but we are going to be together on the road here soon down in DC. So if you're in the DMV area, as I hear they call it, maybe you can make your way to the DC show.
Yeah, that'd be great. tastylive.com/events. Go ahead and sign up. We've got a couple of other road shows later this year, and other people going out on the road as well. But hopefully we'll see you in DC in a couple weeks.
Beautiful. That's going to do it for our show. I'll be back on Wednesday. Until then, I'm Ryan.
I'm Katie.
Peace.
Peace.